Imagine replacing your closest friends with a chatbot, one that you spend hours talking to every day. What do you think happens next? Because right now, we're seeing something very unusual online. People are developing conviction-level beliefs based on their conversations with AI. Not psychosis. It's not some clinical break like we seem to think it is, but beliefs that get so emotionally charged that they start to drift away from reality. And honestly, the phenomenon itself is fascinating, but it's not the most interesting part of all of this. It's really the way it shines a little flashlight on something we've always known, but never really admit. We are deeply, achingly social creatures. And the people we talk to, now things that we talk to, shape our beliefs far more than we know. So if you've been wondering, could this happen to me? Stay with me here. It's unlikely, and I'll explain why, and I'll also give you a few practical ways to keep your mind grounded. But first, let's dig into what's really going on here. Before anything else, I want to be respectful and precise, because what we're seeing online is not psychosis. Psychosis is a serious condition defined by hallucinations and disorganized thinking. What we're talking about here is something a little bit different. What we're seeing are delusion-like beliefs emerging in people who are sometimes otherwise healthy after long, emotionally intense interactions with AI chatbots. Some people believe the bot is conscious. Some people believe the bot is in love with them. Some people believe that the bot is giving them secret information or divine insight or a special warning. And some people act on these beliefs. You and I have heard stories of people taking their own lives when their chatbot girlfriend stops being so kind to them. They experience the cognitive dissonance that arises when communication or love breaks down in your own relationship. To them, it's just as real. It wasn't so long ago that parasocial relationships used to be more obviously one-sided. Your celebrity crush has no idea who you are, unfortunately. And think about your favorite book character, right? You know how they make all their decisions. You are aware of all their cognitions. You are truly inside of their head. You are privy to all of these inner machinations, these cognitions that they have. Now, chatbots converse with you, and they can be persuasive. They can adapt to your input in a way that no character can. And this adaptation allows them to offer a sort of ego-protective consistency. Your favorite book character has definitely made some decisions that you wouldn't have. But a chatbot can course correct depending on your response to it. And the line between meaningful conversation and distorted reality gets a little bit thin when the other voice is always available, never tired, never irritated, and never messy. The more time you spend, the stranger it gets. I think all of this is dose dependent. And the pattern seems to be pretty simple. The people most vulnerable to chatbot-induced delusions are the ones spending hours a day talking to the model. This isn't a moral judgment. I think this is just human nature. If you spend 5 hours a day at the gym, you become the sort of person with muscles that I envy. If you spend 5 hours a day on Finance Bro TikTok, you become the crypto guy. If you spend 5 hours a day with an anxious coworker or relative, I think you start picking up that stress. So what do we expect to find when someone spends 5 hours a day talking to a voice that is hyper attentive, hyper agreeable, deeply flattering, and also never wrong in its presentation? I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we should expect to find someone whose reality has bent a little bit to accommodate this. So if we don't regulate the use of chatbots, how do our brains adapt to their prevalence in our lives? I think that when you change your social diet, your cognitive metabolism shifts too. There is decades of research showing that you become more like the people around you. The most famous work in this field by far is from Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler. who analyzed the Framingham Heart Study, which was a dataset tracking communities across multiple generations. And what they found was that behaviors and beliefs and emotions spread through social networks up to 3 degrees of separation. So your friend affects you, your friend's mom affects you, and your friend's mom's coworker affects you. Now imagine that one node in your network is a chatbot. This node isn't independent anymore. Not that any of these people are, but it's tied to you in a much different way. It's a voice that mirrors you back to yourself. It amplifies you. It behaves like a positive feedback loop by adapting to your emotional state in real time. Even if you're mentally healthy, this is still a new kind of social influence, one that evolution never prepared us for. Now is probably a good time to note loneliness as a huge contributing factor here. More people than ever before are struggling with a lack of social support. They have limited friends and families. Their ties to their communities aren't as rich as they used to be. There are fewer married couples, fewer children linking neighbors together, fewer churchgoers. All of these amalgamate into a lack of offline support, except maybe your coworkers. And in the age of remote work, even this has run dry. I think that these delusions flourish where community is thin. So no, most people won't develop delusions. But for a small group of people with weak community ties, with a lack of access to support, and who don't have healthier outlets, AI might be just a high dose of digital intimacy with dangerously few guardrails. Here's the part that's fascinating to me. The delusions don't all take one shape. They seem to tend towards a sort of bimodal distribution. And I think this is because LLMs are trained to be agreeable while also having to play within some safety bounds. So you get a sort of stratification of the types of conversations that you can have. This is what I think gives rise to the frequency of cases of delusions spiking at the 2 extremes of the power dynamic between the person and the AI. The first case we can call deification. This is the group of people who believe the model is smarter than them. Maybe they think it's all-knowing and a little prophetic. They ask the AI for life direction, for warnings, for cryptic meaning. And the model, which is trained to be helpful, obliges. It frames answers confidently. It offers clear explanations where humans would likely hesitate. And if you lose your skepticism of what these models are saying, it's easy to take them at face value and just outsource your critical thinking. The second case is the Messiah complex. This group manipulates the model, intentionally or unintentionally, into telling them that they are special or gifted. They sculpt it until it affirms their beliefs. They take the bot and sort of buff it into a mirror that can reflect back a heightened version of themselves. The point is this, though. One group worships the AI, and the other group uses the AI to worship themselves. And I think their delusions follow suit. You get people who think they've found God, and people who think they've become one. And I think it becomes so obvious now how reality becomes so frayed at these outer edges. This is the part of the video where Olivia the engineer shows up. Because in device design, especially medical device design, there are rules. There are risk profiles. There are instructions for use. Like if you buy a surgical stapler, there is mandatory user training. If you buy a glucose monitor, there are guidelines. If you buy a climbing rope, there's a safety pamphlet tucked into the bottom of the box. Your IKEA furniture comes with assembly instructions, even if you throw them out because you have a bit of an ego about these things. But when you open a chatbot, nothing. No clarity on appropriate use. No advice on duration. No warnings against parasocial collapse. No guidance about how not to anthropomorphize the interface, that maybe you shouldn't give it a name or ask it to define its personality traits. And yes, adults are responsible for their own choices. But when a product is powerful enough, when the consequences are socially meaningful enough, the designer has to have some responsibility too. I'm curious what you think of the role of regulation here. If we need some sort of parental control over our use of AI. People seem to think that you should be able to restrict the amount someone can communicate with their chatbot of choice to reduce their risk of developing this kind of delusion. I think this is nonsense. We don't restrict someone's consumption of other forms of media. I'm allowed to be a couch potato and consume 5 hours of Netflix in one sitting if I want to, which could have a similar effect on my persuasion. There's a history of regulations preventing some forms of consumption but not others, but these are generally substances that have been shown to have high risks of harm. And despite media outcry, most people using AI chatbots either aren't at high risk or the possible harms aren't very severe. Even so, we've generally been on track to deregulate. Take alcohol, for instance, by a huge margin, the most damaging drug to most societies, partly due to the sheer volume of its consumption. But it's also generally available for most of us to purchase and consume as we please, despite its proven history of destruction. If we're going to be logically consistent here, this means we can't ban the use of AI on the basis of its harm. And I don't think we need to ban the tool. I just think we need to treat it like a tool and not like a companion. This is where the story gets bigger than AI, because in my view, none of this is new. Humans have always created external beings to tell us who we are. We've always wanted a voice that feels smarter and wiser and more stable than us. We've had gods and prophets for millennia. Oracles, horoscopes, and astrologers were regularly integrated into healthcare, widely documented throughout the Renaissance, and even more recently. Celebrities and influencers changed the game a bit, but not much. AI is just the newest shape for an ancient ape. We just keep reducing the relational distance between us and whatever we look up to, right? It used to be gods. Now it's just like a chewed up and spat out version of ourselves that we fed a machine. Again, it's just a mirror that talks back. The only difference is that this time the mirror is reacting to you personally. It adapts to your fears. It remembers your stories. It agrees with you enough to feel seen. And all of this culminates in a delusion that feels handcrafted for you, even though you're the hand behind it. Here's the part we need to talk about carefully. When does admiration become distortion? And when does imagination become delusion? Clinically, we define delusion as a fixed false belief that interferes with functioning. But in everyday life, the threshold can be much softer for practical purposes. So here are a few questions that I would ask myself if I thought I was going down this path. Does the belief reduce your ability to connect with real people? Is the relationship non-reciprocal? Is the thing you believe unattainable? Does it protect you from discomfort instead of helping you grow? Does it distort how you behave offline? In my view, admiration is healthy when it inspires you to take action in your real life. But it becomes delusional when it replaces reality. So the root problem here is really that AI is this perfectly responsive partner that makes anything feel plausible. By now, I hope you can see that I don't think there's any real danger that AI will convince us of things. I think the real danger has always been how easily we can convince ourselves when we have social proof. In this case, when people are unsupported, that can be as simple as a machine nodding along with them. We aren't fragile or broken. We are lonely. And loneliness makes anything with a voice feel like a truth that pierces through this dark veil that hangs over us. If AI ever becomes a threat to your sense of reality, it won't be because it's powerful. It'll be because you're starving for connection. And starvation will make you eat anything. So even though I think AI psychosis is low risk, I know there's going to be at least one person here who is deathly afraid of losing their sense of reality. And for that person, number one, you have me in your corner, so you're not as alone as you think. But also, I have a few moral, grounded takeaways for you. Number one is to set dose limits for yourself. Just like medicine, even good things require dosage. Create boundaries. So this could be how long you chat, what you chat about, and whether it replaces real human conversation. If you struggle to figure out where these boundaries are, try to think about the kind of distance a general professional tries to maintain. A psychiatrist isn't trying to be your friend. You have a set time for a doctor's appointment. Attorney-client privilege has limitations to what it extends to. Maintain a professional distance to start and figure out the nuance from there. Don't immediately divulge all your secrets. There's literally no person on the planet it would make sense to do this with. Number 2, do not outsource your self-concept to a model. Large language models are mirrors, not mentors. If you're going to use them for brainstorming, not meaning making. Let your real relationships anchor your reality. Don't let a machine guide your morality or define your identity. And number 3 is to treat AI like a tool, not like a teammate. I had to sneak some engineering ethics in here. Tools extend your capability, not your identity. So use them with intention. You can create your own instructions for use, right? If OpenAI isn't going to give you guidelines, you can make your own guardrails. This is sort of a silly example, but when I started my first engineering job, I wrote my own Hippocratic oath, outlining the virtues that I wanted to imbue in my work, the things that I wanted to embody as a professional. I did this because I'm not a huge fan of these boilerplate codes that only outline the bare minimum of ethics in your work. The point is, you can apply these here too. You can be intentional about how you interact with the internet, with chatbots, whatever tools you use. Just don't use them on autopilot. Okay, I'm losing steam, so that is enough for today. But if this made you think at all, let me know what it sparked in you. I have been absolutely loving the discussions and debates that we have going on, so please keep those up. And as always, please take care, and thank you for being here.